Just spoke to a lawyer about how we'd split your assets. Nothing scary, just preparing. That was the message. Exactly that. No good morning, no context, no explanation. She didn't say our assets. She said your. I was in my robe, holding a half-full mug of Ethiopian roast, sitting on the back patio. The sun was just starting to warm the bricks. A few squirrels were already fighting over the bird feeder. Everything was peaceful, familiar, mine. I stared at the message for maybe 4 seconds, not angry, not surprised, more like satisfied, like watching the final puzzle piece slide into place. I didn't write a single word in response, just opened my files, selected one PDF, and hit send. The subject line was blank. The attachment was called prenuptial_agreement_February_notarized.pdf. She signed it 7 months ago, in a sundress, barefoot, tipsy off Rose. We were in Santa Fe, celebrating our future, as she put it. She was laughing, lounging across the Airbnb couch, flipping through the pages, half distracted. She said the paperwork was just for the international stuff, the visa, the travel. Formality, she called it. She didn't read the last 4 pages, and I didn't stop her. In fact, I made a joke. Careful, that's the one that gives me the Picasso if we split. She laughed. You'd give me nothing if I left, she said. I smiled. Exactly. She signed. I filed it. Not because I didn't trust her, well, no, actually, because I didn't. You don't get to 61, twice divorced, and comfortable without learning to listen between the lines. Her interest in my retirement accounts, her sudden obsession with golf, the way she hated jazz until she found out my mentor hosted fundraisers at Blue Note. Everything she touched, she mirrored, until she thought she blended in. And then this message, this slip, was her first move in what she thought was a negotiation. She had no idea she'd already closed the deal months ago. Most people listen to stories like this and think, that'd never be me. I'd see the signs. You don't. Not when it's soft, slow, affectionate manipulation. Not when it comes with warm hands and whispered plans. Not when your own ego wants to believe you're still charming enough to win the affection of someone 20 years younger who claims your salt and pepper beard is hot and your estate plan is so responsible. If you've made it this far, I'll ask you for one thing. Subscribe. Seriously, over 97% of people who hear stories like this never do, and it means a lot to the team that puts them together. Keeps us telling the ones people won't say out loud. Anyway, back to the message. I watched the read receipt pop up 5 minutes later. She was typing, stopped, typing again. Then she called, didn't answer. She called again, left a voicemail this time. Hey babe, I didn't mean anything weird by that text. I was just, doing due diligence. My friend Meg said every couple should be prepared, so look, can we talk? She called again, then sent a photo of the prenup cover. What is this? Now we were getting somewhere. I texted back, you already signed. She called again. I silenced it, went inside, took out the trash, started the dishwasher, put on a Miles Davis vinyl. Nothing like cool brass while watching a castle of lies start to tremble. An hour later, another message. We should talk, like really talk. I don't want this to become a thing. A thing. Interesting word choice. So I replied, let's meet tomorrow, 11 a.m. Cafe Marlowe. Public place, neutral ground. I already knew she'd try charm first, then tears, then the card no one ever wants to admit they were holding, victimhood. But what she didn't understand was, this wasn't a conversation anymore. This was documentation. The game had already ended. She just hadn't realized who was keeping score. Her voice on the call was high, brittle, fake casual, like an actress slipping mid-scene. What's this, babe? Is this a real prenup or like some old draft you forgot to delete? I didn't flinch. It's the one you signed at the notary in Santa Fe, remember? You were wearing that red wrap dress. You joked it was for visa stuff. Silence. Then quieter. Wait, you kept that? I didn't bother responding to that. Of course I kept it. That's the point of a notarized, witnessed, and scanned document with video verification. She laughed through the entire signing like it was foreplay, playfully whispering I do, as the notary instructed her to initial here, sign there. I watched her write her name in cursive, looping the Y in that dramatic way she always did when she was pretending to be classy. She never asked what she was signing. I never reminded her, because in her mind, it was just a joke, a symbolic gesture. So they'll approve my spousal visa without all the delays, she'd said, like government immigration protocols were just another flirtation. But now she was scrolling, flipping, pausing longer with each page. Wait, what's paragraph 14 mean? She asked, voice thin. It means you waived rights to anything I owned before the marriage, house, pensions, the trusts, anything tied to Langley and Company and the retirement annuities. More silence, then incredulous. But that's like everything. That's you. I leaned back in my chair, amused. Yes, that was me. She didn't get the joke. Not yet. Pages rustled over the line. She was scanning, hoping for some fine print she missed, some clause that would magically reopen a door she'd already locked behind her. Wait, what's this about the rental in Bishop? The cabin? I transferred it to you, remember? Said it was a gift. Yeah? It's in your name now. She exhaled like that should have comforted her. It wouldn't. Not after she saw what that gift actually entailed. But we'd get to that later. Right now, she was on the edge of realization, but not quite over it yet. That's the most entertaining phase, the scramble for footing, the rationalizations, the desperate reach for emotional leverage. But why would you even want something like this? She said suddenly. Were you planning for this? Planning for us to fail? She emphasized us like it was sacred, as if we had been forged in fire, not candlelight dinners and filtered selfies, as if I didn't already know she was using my last name in Instagram DMs to flirt with a travel blogger in Miami 3 months ago. I didn't answer her question. I asked one of my own. Why did you sign it? She was quiet again. I waited. Finally, she muttered, because you asked me to, because I trusted you. No, I said. You signed it because you thought it didn't matter. That landed. I heard her breath catch, just slightly. See, when you think someone is fully in your palm, you stop checking if the hand holding yours has claws. She thought she'd outplayed me before the game began, that I'd be so thrilled to have her, young, vibrant, effortlessly flattering, that I wouldn't see what she was angling toward, the way she'd slowly tried to nudge decisions toward her. We should move the brokerage to a younger firm. Your will should mention charitable work. Let's update your beneficiaries so it doesn't all go to people you don't even talk to anymore. I saw it, all of it, and I smiled through it, because while she was busy playing chess with her looks, I was playing contracts with my memory. Now she was unraveling, not crying, yet, but the breathless stammering was close. I didn't know that's what it said. I didn't mean like, I thought we were just… You didn't read it. No, but you signed it anyway. That's not fair. You knew I didn't read it. I nodded, though she couldn't see. Yes, I did. That silence? That was the moment it clicked. The moment she understood she wasn't in a relationship, she was in a merger, and she just sold her shares without checking the exit clause. You're not seriously enforcing this, she said, voice smaller now. You wouldn't, after everything, we love each other, right? She kept trying to swing back into emotion, love, feelings, history, but the file wasn't written in hearts. It was written in statute, witnessed, recorded, and now, triggered. I ended the call not with anger, not with cruelty, just a simple, we'll talk tomorrow. I'd suggest reading it all before then. Then I hung up. I don't know if she cried, or screamed, or tore the printout in half, but I do know this. She never expected the man she underestimated to be the man who planned for this from the moment she said, "You'd give me nothing if I left." She was right. I just made sure the paperwork agreed. She asked for a clean slate. Let's meet in person, she texted. Talk face to face. I want to explain. Maybe we got off track. Maybe I did. But I want us back. No lawyer talk, no blame, just her words in neat lowercase vulnerability. I picked the cafe deliberately, Elkstone, one of those upscale but cozy places with exposed brick, $9 cappuccinos, and just enough foot traffic to keep things civil. Public enough for politeness, private enough for precision. I got there early, took the corner seat facing the door. I'd chosen that one dozens of times over the years for meetings, negotiations, contract finalizations. That seat gives you the advantage. You see them before they see you. She arrived 11 minutes late. Always had a flair for that. Show up slightly behind schedule. Let them wait just long enough to remind them you're worth it. Except this time, I didn't look up when she walked in. Just kept sipping my black coffee and flipping through the folder in front of me like it contained spreadsheets and not digital confessions. She sat down across from me in a soft gray coat I recognized from our trip to Prague. Carefully disheveled hair, lip gloss just right, eyes wide, gentle, apologetic. Hey, I glanced up, nodded, didn't speak. She exhaled. Look, I know this whole thing got weird. I panicked. I said some stupid things. I didn't mean anything by it, honestly. The lawyer thing, it was Meg's idea. She scares easily. And the prenup? I thought it was symbolic. Like, romantic even. I said nothing. She leaned in slightly. I just want to start over, that's all. No games, just us. I opened the folder. Her face shifted. Slightly. She was expecting papers, sure, but not these. I slid the first sheet across the table. It was a screenshot of her messages to her friend Courtney, time-stamped, dated 4 months ago. The subject, me. Her line at the top, I mean, I'll never have to work again if this goes through. He's basically a pension in a sweater. Below it, Courtney replied with a laughing emoji and, Queen, retire early and marry late. I watched her eyes read it, blink, then dart toward me like maybe I'd been hacked, or faked it, or misread something. I didn't mean that, she said quickly. It was a joke. Court and I, we say dumb things sometimes, it's just how we talk. I slid the second sheet over. A photo of my nightstand taken when she accidentally left her phone in the bedroom while I was out. In the background, my retirement folder open. Caption from her group chat. Found the treasure chest. Her breath caught. A microsecond of panic. Then she smiled. Too wide. Too rehearsed. That wasn't even recent. I was being silly. I didn't do anything. You documented it, I said. She reached for the sheet like she could flip the page on the moment. I was trying to be funny. You know me. You know I don't care about your money like that. I let the silence sit, let her drown in it a little. Then I asked, what's the name of my business partner? She blinked. What? Who co-founded Langley and Company with me? Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I nodded. You've been with me for over a year, lived in my home, toured the office, met the board, but you don't know his name. Look, that's not fair. I'm not great with names. You remember what I wore on our first dinner? Well, yeah, that navy sweater, the one that, but not the name of the man who's held half my estate for 25 years. The words just evaporated from her face. She tried again, softer this time. Okay, I messed up. I said things I shouldn't have. I laughed when I should have asked, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you, not your stuff, you. I pulled out the last sheet, folded. Her voice cracked before I even opened it. Can't we just move on from this? I slid it across anyway. A screenshot from her Finsta, caption over a mirror selfie. One last kiss before I become Mrs. Exit Strategy. Date stamped, 2 weeks before the prenup. She looked like she'd been slapped, swallowed, blinked rapidly. That wasn't about you. That was a song lyric. It's literally a line from a track by Dua. I don't care, I said calmly, because it wasn't the caption that mattered. Her mouth opened, confused. It was the fact that you posted that while standing in my house, wearing my shirt, after texting me that you couldn't wait to build a future together. She reached across the table. Please don't do this. I closed the folder. I'm not doing anything, just collecting facts. She leaned back, visibly rattled now, eyes darting to the people around us, suddenly aware that we weren't alone, that this wasn't a private performance, this was an unveiling, and I hadn't raised my voice once. I just wanted us to talk, she said again, quieter this time. We did, I said, and now we're done. I picked up the folder, left a 20 on the table, walked out. She didn't follow, because she finally understood. I wasn't coming to negotiate. I came to close the file. She didn't spiral right away. That would have been too honest. First came the performance, performative healing, public contrition, the rebrand of a woman who'd learned her lesson. By the following Tuesday, her Instagram, usually a highlight reel of wine tastings, gym selfies, and inspirational quotes about alignment, was gone, deactivated, like she'd stripped herself of the stage lights to come crawl humbly back to center. She sent a carefully worded email. Subject, us, I know I messed up, and I'm willing to do the work. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. You mean more to me than anything. We rushed into parts of this too fast. Let's slow down and reconnect. She ended it with a line I hadn't heard since our second date. You always made me feel safe. I want that again. Safe. That word did something different now. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded her email to my assistant with a one-line instruction. Please prepare the hold request for the venue and notify our planner to suspend all vendors, effective immediately. The next day, she texted, neutral at first. Did you get my email? Then again, 5 hours later, I talked to someone about counseling. They said couples who face conflict early actually end up stronger. Still nothing from me. Then the shift came, desperation, sugar-coated as sincerity. Maybe we can meet? I just want to feel like us again. We don't have to talk about that stuff. Just us. But I wasn't in the business of reviving ghosts. I was in the process of extracting her, Cleanly, quietly, permanently. She started probing my circle. She called my sister, twice, left voicemails that ranged from, "I just want to understand what's going on," to, "He's scaring me with how cold he's become." She emailed my accountant. "Can we talk briefly? Just about logistics, wedding stuff, not finances, I promise." She called my attorney's office and told the receptionist she was my wife. Left a message saying it was urgent. No one replied, because they were under strict instructions not to. See, I'd already paused the wedding contract, had it rewritten, not postponed, terminated, legally, clean break. The kind that doesn't just cancel a date but dissolves the entire agreement with each vendor. The floral designer, gone. The venue deposit, forfeited, on my terms. The custom rings, already pulled from production. Every name tied to her, scrubbed, not delayed, deleted. I didn't want space. I wanted subtraction. The courier arrived at her door the next morning, a quiet man in a navy windbreaker. He didn't smile, didn't make small talk, just handed her a sealed envelope, confirmed the signature, and walked away. Inside the envelope, a single document, the voided wedding contract, initialed by me, stamped, notarized. Nothing else, no note, no explanation, not even a post-it, just the symbol of something that would never be. She texted once more. "So this is it?" I didn't reply, because there was no it left to define. There was no tragic arc, no cruel betrayal, just the cold click of a man reclaiming the silence he should have never let her fill. Later that week, I learned she tried to visit the church where we were supposed to hold the ceremony, told the coordinator she was checking on the schedule. The woman looked her up, politely, then told her the date was no longer booked, and the contract was terminated by the client. That word, client, stung, I'm sure, because now she wasn't fiancé. She was an outsider trying to peek back into a room whose walls had already been painted over. The isolation wasn't emotional, it was surgical. I didn't scream, I didn't ghost her, I didn't send rage texts in the middle of the night. I just rescinded the invitation, and with it, the illusion that this was ever going to be her life to inherit. She tried the key twice, once with confidence, like maybe she'd just misaligned it, the second time with just enough force to betray the anxiety. It didn't turn, didn't click, didn't even resist like a jammed lock. It just sat there, still and silent, as if the door had already forgotten her. She knocked next, that awkward knock, soft, then louder, then in a rhythm she thought might wake his memory. Nothing. The lobby security guy glanced at her from behind the desk. He knew her, of course he did. She used to breeze past him with croissants and weekend bags, always heading up to Richard's, smiling, confident, like she belonged. But now he just gave her a measured look and said, "Mr. Langley's out of town." She blinked. "Out of town?" "Yes, ma'am. Left yesterday morning. Back next week, I think." She forced a casual smile. "Did he say where he was going?" The guy shrugged. "Nope. Just dropped his key off for cleaning. Asked to forward any packages to his other address." That stopped her. His what address? The security guy looked down at his screen like that question wasn't for him. "Sorry, I can't give out personal information." She left the lobby slow, shoulders high, chin higher, but her grip on her phone was white-knuckled. He hadn't told her he was going anywhere. He hadn't answered her last 3 texts, and now she was locked out, literally. No explanation, no warning, just a dead key and a ghost trail. She pulled up his social media. Nothing new, no posts, no stories, nothing on LinkedIn, nothing on Twitter. His digital footprint was spotless, cleaned, sterile. She refreshed Instagram twice. Still nothing. Then, almost as an afterthought, she checked tags. And there it was. A photo, posted by someone named Elizabeth Chow, captioned, "Reunion night with this brilliant soul, still killing it after all these years." It was a low-lit shot in a jazz lounge, white tablecloth, candlelight, a saxophone player blurred in the background. And there he was, Richard, in a navy button-down, sipping something amber, leaning in close to a woman with dark hair and sharper cheekbones than hers. Laughing, not forced, not polite, laughing, the kind of laugh she hadn't seen from him in months. Her stomach dropped before her brain caught up. She clicked the woman's profile. Open, public, verified, an economics professor, Ivy League, alumni of the same business school Richard went to 25 years ago. She'd posted more from the same night, group photos, dinner shots, all from a private club in Chicago. Chicago. He told her he'd never go back there. "Too many ghosts," he once said. "Guess some ghosts are worth resurrecting." She stared at the photos, zoomed in like that would change something. like a closer look would reveal it was just a coincidence, that maybe the woman wasn't touching his wrist in that last photo, that maybe Richard's smile was just polite. But it wasn't. It was relaxed, present, free. He was already gone. Not physically, emotionally. He wasn't stepping back from her. He'd already stepped into something else, something old, or maybe just something clean. And now she was stuck outside his life with a useless key, a phone full of unanswered messages, and a growing suspicion that she had never, not once, been irreplaceable. She texted him again. "Hey, can we talk? I didn't know you were traveling." No reply. She tried again later that night. This time, not a question, just a statement. "We were supposed to do this together. You can't just disappear." But he could. He already had. She sat in her car in the condo parking lot, refreshing the same photo over and over again, as if staring at the image would let her climb back inside it. But she couldn't. She had already been edited out. The call came mid-morning while she was at her sister's house, pretending to browse Airbnb listings for a solo wellness retreat. Unknown number, area code from up north. She hesitated, then answered with her best polite but wary tone. "Hello? Hi, this is Darren from Summit Ridge Roofing. Just confirming we're set to begin roof and fascia repair on the Bishop property this Thursday. Weather looks clear, so we'll get moving early. Probably have the old shingles off by noon." A pause. Too long. "Hello? I'm sorry," she said. "What property?" "Bishop," he repeated. "The A-frame off West Creek Road. Pretty steep pitch roof, lots of rot along the ridge vent. We got the deposit last month, just checking the schedule with the owner before we bring up the crew." "I'm not," she began, then stopped herself. Her mouth went dry. He continued, unfazed. "Name on the deed is you, ma'am, Melissa Carter. Not a problem if you're not local. Just need someone to sign off that we can access the property perimeter." She ended the call without another word. She didn't know what stunned her more, the fact that he used her full name or the fact that the gift cabin, once presented during their post-Christmas weekend in the mountains with a red ribbon and a card that said, "To us," had apparently been signed over completely to her. She searched the county records in a panic. Public access. Simple lookup. There it was. Melissa Carter, sole owner. Effective date, March 3rd, filed by his lawyer's office. She clicked deeper. The fine print unfolded like a punch to the stomach. Deferred property taxes, $7,900. Pending liens from a past contractor, $12,600. Roof inspection report. Severe structural degradation. Emergency repairs recommended. Estimated cost, $43,000, not including mold remediation. She sat still, blinking at the screen like maybe the numbers would vanish if she just stared long enough. They didn't. She remembered the night he gave her the cabin. It was snowing lightly. He'd poured her a bourbon and handed her the envelope across the fireplace. "Something that's just yours," he'd said. She giggled, kissed him, called him the most romantic man on earth. She never asked why he called it just yours. Never asked why he didn't want to co-own it. Never asked why a man who triple checks parking meters would hand over a property without even blinking. Because she assumed it was love, or guilt, or that special blend of both she was always so good at conjuring in men who hated being alone. And now she owned a rotting cabin with tens of thousands in debt and a roofing crew showing up in 48 hours. She tried calling his assistant, voicemail. She tried emailing the roofing company to cancel. They replied with a cheery note and a reminder. Any cancellations must be submitted by the deed holder in writing no less than 48 hours in advance to avoid deposit forfeiture. She tried his lawyer's office next, got the same receptionist. "We can't discuss client matters with non-clients, ma'am." "But he gave me this property." "You'll need to speak with your own counsel." My own counsel. Just like that, she was no longer the pretty fiancée attending charity galas and browsing wedding menus. She was the legal owner of a decaying mountain liability, staring down a contractor invoice she never agreed to, and a county tax office that had already sent 2 warning letters, both redirected to a P.O. box she didn't know existed. It wasn't just that he protected his own assets. He weaponized generosity. He'd wrapped a time bomb in a bow and watched her coo over it. Now it was ticking in her name. She spent the rest of that day in a fog, combing through records she barely understood, scribbling down numbers she couldn't afford, and Googling phrases like quitclaim deed reversal and can a gift property be returned? Spoiler, it can't. She was stuck, with the debt, the mold, the liens, with a new identity too, Melissa Carter, owner. of exactly one thing, a structure she didn't ask for, and the consequences that came with it. It started small, subtle, a left on red from Ava, then a canceled wine night with Jane and Michael, no reschedule, just a vague, let's touch base next month. She told herself it was coincidence. Everyone gets busy, people flake. But when she saw Mark and Eliza at Whole Foods, people they used to double date with every other Thursday, and they ducked into the organic nut aisle like they hadn't seen her, that's when it landed like a thud in her gut. The social orbit wasn't spinning anymore, and she was no longer a planet in it. She tried messaging Ava directly. Miss you. Brunch soon? No reply. Tried again with Jane. Thinking about you guys. Hope the kids are well. Seen. No response. She stared at the glowing read receipts like they were taunts. It made no sense. They'd adored her, laughed at her jokes, tagged her in photos, shared bottles of Malbec and candlelit birthdays and stories about their yoga teacher's affairs. But in every one of those memories, she was introduced. This is Melissa, Richard's fiancée. Not Melissa the friend, not Melissa the consultant. That gig ended 6 months ago. Not Melissa the host, just the accessory, the plus one, the beautiful placeholder. And once Richard withdrew his invitation, the room went quiet. It took one brutally honest response to confirm it. Out of desperation, she texted Daniel, the one who always called her trouble in heels, and sent late-night memes. Are you avoiding me too, or is this just something in the air lately? He replied the next morning, one line. You made him feel replaceable. You forgot who he was before you met him. That one burned. Because Richard wasn't just some older guy she landed like a luxury handbag. He was Richard Langley, built his firm from scratch in the 90s, laid off twice, nearly bankrupt once, then rebounded so hard that Forbes ran a spread on his comeback. He used to speak on panels titled Resilience as Currency, and she had reduced him to a life raft, a vessel to carry her out of the chaos of gig jobs and freelance purgatory, a safe harbor after 2 failed attempts at wellness consulting. The man who always paid the dinner bill, always remembered her preferred wine, always said, we'll figure it out, when she missed another rent payment on her studio she never actually worked in. She told herself she made his life lighter, more fun, youthful. But what she'd actually done was turn a self-made man into a means to her end. And the people who knew him, really knew him, saw it. Long before she did. Now they were done curating excuses for her, done smiling politely while she prattled on about yoga certifications she never finished, done pretending not to notice how often she bragged about helping him modernize his style or teaching him to use Venmo. They had closed the door as quickly as he did, because none of them had become her friends. They were his, and she'd assumed they'd stay neutral, that they'd float in the middle like divorce guests choosing chairs. But no, they vanished, because she was never the host, she was the guest, and the invitation had expired. She tried one last message, to Eliza, who once called her the fresh air Richard needed. I miss you. I feel like everyone vanished. I didn't know it was all so conditional. Eliza replied several hours later. It wasn't conditional, it was borrowed, and then you overdrew. There was nothing else. No emojis, no warmth, just a closing line, like the final stamp on a returned package. She sat on her couch that night, scrolling through old group photos, filtered and perfectly posed. In every shot, she was glowing. But now she realized the glow wasn't hers. It was his reflection. And without him, the room had gone dark. It took her 3 hours to type the message. She rewrote it 7 times, each version softer than the last, less accusatory, more neutral. She knew she couldn't come in hot. Not after the silence, the friends ghosting, the legal documents, the cabin mess, the ignored calls. She had to strike a tone that sounded enlightened, mutual, graceful, like someone who had matured, like someone who chose detachment instead of being left with it. Her final draft read, maybe we should both get a fresh start, no hard feelings, send. She watched the 3 little dots appear, then disappear, then silence. 2 minutes later, a single reply buzzed through. Already did. No punctuation, no hey, no signature, not even a thumbs up emoji to soften the blow. Just, already did. She reread it 10 times, like maybe something else was hidden in the simplicity. Maybe there was regret tucked inside the lack of punctuation. Maybe it was clipped because he was too emotional to say more. Maybe, maybe. It was exactly what it was. She tried typing a response, backspaced, tried again, deleted it, finally settled on, can we meet? Send. No read receipt, no reply, not even a delivered tag eventually, just limbo. She sat back on her couch and stared out the window like it might offer an answer. But the street below just kept moving. Uber Eats bikes, joggers, a couple arguing gently outside the nail salon. Life. Just life. And she wasn't in his anymore. That was the difference now. Before, when they argued, or misaligned, as she used to call it, he would stew. But he'd still show up. A text, a call, a gesture, a peace offering disguised as logic. There was always a trail back. But this wasn't cold. This was absent. She didn't feel punished. She felt excluded, like someone had changed the locks on a home she didn't know she'd been renting. She went to her bedroom and opened the drawer with the photo album. Not her phone's gallery, the physical one, the one she built early in the relationship when she thought she was building something permanent. Weekend trips, coffee on the terrace, a blurry shot of them brushing their teeth in a hotel bathroom, laughing. She stared at one photo, him in sunglasses, mid-laugh, holding up a glass of wine. God, he looked happy. She remembered captioning it on Instagram. Best decision I ever made, #blessed. She also remembered cropping the woman next to him out of the frame, a childhood friend, someone he once called a touchstone. Melissa didn't like the way she touched his arm when she laughed, so she snipped her out, quietly, without asking. He never said anything about it. He just stopped bringing Melissa to events where the woman would be. And now she was the one cropped, not with scissors, but with silence. She checked the phone again. Still nothing. She clicked on his name in her messages. The full thread was still there, from their first flirty exchanges to their last real conversation. Her last text now hovered at the bottom like a lonely buoy in open water. Can we meet? No answer. And what terrified her most wasn't that he hadn't replied. It's that he probably never would. She wasn't even looking for him when she found it. She was updating her LinkedIn headline, changing creative strategist to consultant and advisor because it sounded more independent, more unbothered, less like she'd been left behind in someone else's story. A friend had told her recruiters liked keywords like agile and cross-functional, so she'd spent the morning pretending to be either of those things. She clicked into the feed for a break, scrolled past productivity tips, a couple of humble brags, a webinar about emotional ROI. Then she saw his name, posted 2 hours ago. An unforgettable evening reconnecting with people who shaped the foundation of everything I've built. Grateful for real partnerships, not performative ones. Below the caption, a photo, dimly lit, elegant, long mahogany table, crystal glasses, waitstaff blurred in motion, candles flickering in brass holders. She recognized the wallpaper instantly, the Westmore Club, a members-only place she'd once begged him to take her to. He told her gently back then, that world's not built for selfies. She always thought that meant he wanted to keep her a secret. Now she understood. It meant she didn't belong there. There he was in the center of the frame, glass raised, in conversation with a man she knew only by reputation, a founding partner at Bellmark Capital. On the left, his old mentor from Langley's first acquisition, and to his right, the woman from the jazz lounge, same angular smile, same knowing eyes, elbow lightly grazing his as she leaned in, listening. There was no name tag, no +1 label. She didn't need one, because she wasn't +1 anything. She was absent. There were 9 people in the photo. 8 were tagged. Not her. She wasn't there. Not in the post, not in the comments, not in the room. And yet, somehow, she felt more exposed than ever. She stared at the caption again, grateful for real partnerships, not performative ones. That line landed like a slap. He'd said nothing about her for months. No subtweets, no rants, no reputational cleanup. And then, this. One scalpel-line sentence that said everything. You were a performance. They were the show. She clicked the woman's profile again. Elizabeth Chow. Tenured. Published. Member of the Aspen Institute. Tagged in a photo 2 days earlier at the same venue with a different caption. Nothing better than dinner with people who lead with integrity. It was coordinated. Quietly, surgically coordinated. They were reclaiming him. The version of Richard that existed before she'd softened his edges and redressed him in cashmere, before she taught him how to pose for sunset selfies, before she dragged him into hashtags and curated brunches and stories that began with, my fiancé and I, because now he wasn't anybody's fiancé. He was just Richard Langley again. And she was a deleted sentence in the bio. She opened her calendar, stared at the date they were supposed to do the menu tasting. It passed last week. She hadn't even noticed. She'd been too busy trying to engineer a second chance. She hovered over the like button on the post, didn't click it. She tried to justify it to herself. Maybe he needed closure. Maybe this was his way of making peace. Maybe it wasn't about me at all. But she knew better. It was about removal, not punishment, not bitterness, just replacement. He had returned to the world she spent a year trying to get invited into, and that world had quietly locked the doors behind him. The next day, she got a notification. Someone from Belmark Capital viewed her profile. She waited, thinking maybe it was a connection request. Maybe someone from that world had seen her photo in his feed and clicked through. But there were no photos of her in his feed. No trace. And the notification disappeared like smoke. No message, no follow-up, just an echo of a name that would never be said in her presence again. She closed the app, sat in the stillness, and realized she hadn't just lost a man. She'd been written out of a life. It took her days to work up the nerve. She rehearsed the call in her head 100 times, what she'd say, how she'd sound. She'd gone from furious to fragile to fake calm, cycling through emotional disguises like outfits, but none of them fit anymore. The man she was trying to reach wasn't the man who used to text her good morning before board meetings. He wasn't even the man who'd once called her his quiet place during a layover in Rome. No, he was someone else now, and she was someone he no longer recognized. Still, she dialed, straight to voicemail. She tried again, same thing. She opened her contacts and saw the little blue blocked badge under his name. It made her feel small, so she created a new number, Google Voice, a digital disguise just big enough to slip through the cracks of his firewall. She didn't plan to use it forever, just once, just long enough to be heard. She crafted the message slowly, painfully, like carving words into wet cement. You were my future. Send. It hovered there for a minute. Delivered. No read receipt. Then it blinked. Read. A full 60 seconds passed. Then came his reply. 2 messages. No salutation, no name, no emoji, just, I was, followed by, you treated me like a transaction. You lost the deal. That was it. Not cruel, not cold. Worse than cold. It was clinical. Like a line from a closing memo. Like something he'd say at the end of a negotiation when both parties understood nothing personal was left. Just numbers. Just facts. She stared at the screen, her heart a dead weight behind her ribs. He hadn't yelled. He hadn't cursed. He hadn't punished her with spite or rage or dramatics. He just walked away with elegance. And somehow that hurt more than any scorched earth exit ever could, because it meant he'd reached peace, not revenge, peace. He hadn't just blocked her, he'd processed her, filed her away with the rest of the decisions he once believed in and now simply lived without. She typed a response, backspaced, typed again, backspaced. Nothing she wrote felt worthy of his silence. Because what do you say to a man who's already packed up your presence and archived it? She sat on the edge of her bed, holding the phone like it might still pulse with something human. But the screen stayed still, no typing bubble, no echo, just that final message glowing with the weight of someone who didn't need the last word, because he already had the final one. She thought about their first vacation, their late-night card games, that time she broke the espresso machine and he fixed it without ever saying, I told you so. And then she thought about how she never once asked him why he always double-checked every receipt, every form, every name on every paper, because she assumed he was just controlling. She never realized he was preparing. Now he was gone, not geographically, not logistically, but emotionally, permanently. She dropped the phone on the floor, stared at the ceiling, and whispered the words out loud, like maybe they'd echo in some part of the universe where he might still hear her. You were my future. But the room didn't answer. The man she was whispering to, he'd already closed the deal, and the only thing left was silence.